Hannah stood alone at the edge of the village. Everyone else hid in their huts from the strange lights in the sky. Not Hannah. She watched with wide eyes as the lights grew bigger. The village elders always called her primitive. They hated how she asked too many questions. They hated how she didn't blindly follow their old ways. "Hannah, come back now," her brother Teho shouted from the safety of the trees. "The evil spirits will take you." Hannah smiled as she watched the lights come closer. "They're not spirits," she whispered. The ground shook as a huge metal object landed in the clearing. Without fear, Hannah ran toward it while her brother screamed behind her. The object shined under the 3 moons of their world. When she touched it, the surface felt cold and smooth. A door opened in the side of the object. Hannah's heart beat fast, but she didn't run. Tall beings stepped out with skin that glowed under the moonlight. Their eyes were large, their arms and legs longer than any human's. Still, Hannah felt no fear. One of them came to her. It held out a small device. The device made a soft sound. Then the being spoke. "You do not run away." "I'm not scared," Hannah said, though her legs shook a little. The being tilted its head. "Amazing. Your brain shows more intelligence than we expected from this world." Suddenly, shouts came from the village. Tahoe had brought the warriors with their spears and bows. The beings turned, lifting weapons that glowed blue. "No." Hannah stepped between them. "Stop. They won't hurt us." But no one listened. Arrows flew through the air. One being fell, purple blood coming from its chest. The others fired their weapons, burning the ground near the warriors' feet as a warning. The warriors ran away scared. Only Tahoe stayed, grabbing Hannah's arm. "What have you done? The spirits will kill us all." "They're not spirits," Hannah said, pulling away from him. "They're travelers from the stars." The leader of the beings came closer, lowering its weapon. "Your people fear what they don't understand, but you are different." "My name is Hannah," she said. "We are the Norl," it replied. "We need your help. A great darkness is coming to your world. It will eat everything unless we stop it." Tahoe pulled at her again. "Don't listen. The elders warned us about lying spirits." But something in the Norl's eyes told Hannah it was telling the truth. "What darkness?" "It has already destroyed 12 worlds," the Norl said. "Your world is next unless you come with us." Hannah looked back at her village, at the people who never understood her, who always called her strange and primitive because she asked questions. Then she looked at the stars and all their mysteries. "I'll go with you," she said. As the door of the ship closed behind her, Hannah heard the elders shouting, "The primitive girl has doomed us all." But Hannah knew better. She hadn't doomed her people. She had just taken the first step to save them, even if they would never know it. The ship hummed beneath Hannah's feet as she stood before the vast window, watching her homeworld shrink to a tiny blue dot among countless stars. Her heart ached with the knowledge that she might never return, but excitement coursed through her veins like fire. "You adapt quickly for a species with such limited space travel," said Dury, the Noril who had first spoken to her. Unlike the others, Dury seemed genuinely interested in Hannah, not just as a specimen but as a person. "My people never left our planet," Hannah admitted, turning from the window. "They believe the stars are the eyes of our ancestors, watching over us." Dury made a sound that might have been laughter, an interesting metaphor, though scientifically inaccurate. The ship's interior was a maze of corridors and chambers, filled with technology Hannah couldn't begin to comprehend. Other Norl moved about with purpose, occasionally glancing at her with their large, reflective eyes. Some appeared curious, others wary. "Why me?" Hannah asked as Dury led her through the ship. "Why take me from my world?" "Your neural patterns," Dury explained, gesturing to a screen displaying what looked like a swirling storm of lights. "They're exceptional for your species. Most humans on your world have patterns consistent with early developmental stages of sentience, but yours." Dury touched the screen, enlarging a particular section of lights. "Yours show potential for higher reasoning, adaptation, and something our scientists can't quite explain. Hannah studied the display, not understanding but feeling a strange pride. All her life, the elders had called her thinking dangerous, her questions inappropriate, her desire for knowledge unnatural. But here, among the stars, her mind was valued. "The darkness you mentioned," Hannah said, following Dury into what appeared to be a command center. "What is it?" The room fell silent as the Noril exchanged glances. Finally, a female named Suni stepped forward, her movements graceful despite her odd proportions. "We call them the Void," Suni said, activating a holographic display that showed a spreading blackness moving between stars. "They are not a species like yours or ours. They are something else entirely." The hologram zoomed in, showing what looked like black smoke devouring everything in its path. Planets, stars, even light itself seemed to vanish where the darkness touched. "They consume energy in all forms," Dury continued. "Life, light, heat, matter itself. They leave nothing behind but cold, dead space." Hannah felt a chill run down her spine. "And they're coming to my world." "They have already consumed 12 planetary systems," Suni confirmed. "Your world lies directly in their path." "But why bring me here?" Hannah asked, looking around at the Noril. "What can I possibly do against something like that?" Dury touched another control, and the hologram changed to show a structure unlike anything Hannah had ever seen. It resembled a massive web of light spanning between planets. "This is the Nexus," Dury explained, "created eons ago by an alliance of species even more advanced than ours. It was designed as a defense against the Void, a way to channel energy in patterns the Void cannot consume." Hannah stared at the intricate design. "It's beautiful." "Yes," Suni agreed, "but incomplete. The creators vanish before finishing it, leaving behind only fragments of their knowledge. For centuries, we have tried to complete it, but something is missing." "A specific type of neural pattern," Dury added, looking at Hannah with intensity. "One that matches the original creators. We've searched countless worlds, tested thousands of species. Your pattern is the closest match we found." Hannah's mind reeled with the implications. "You think I can help complete this Nexus?" "We hope," Dury said, his tone softening. "But the process is not without risk. To interface with the Nexus requires complete neural integration." "What he means," Suni clarified, giving Dury a sharp look, "is that the process could kill you." Silence fell over the room as Hannah absorbed this information. They had taken her from her home, shown her wonders beyond imagination, only to tell her she might die trying to save worlds she had never known existed until today. "If I don't help," Hannah asked slowly, "what happens to my world? To my people?" The answer came in the form of the hologram shifting back to the spreading darkness. The simulation advanced, showing the Void engulfing system after system, until it reached the familiar blue dot of her home. In an instant, the dot vanished, consumed like all the others. Hannah watched, heart pounding, as the simulation continued, showing the Void spreading further, consuming everything in its path. Billions upon billions of lives, extinguished like candles in the wind. "How long?" she whispered. 3 months, perhaps 4, Suni replied. "Not long in cosmic terms." Hannah thought of Tahoe, of the elders who had always misunderstood her, of the children who would never grow old enough to look up at the stars and wonder. They had called her primitive for asking questions, for seeking knowledge beyond their traditions. Now those very qualities might be their only hope. "I'll do it," Hannah said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Show me how to help." The Noril exchanged glances again, but this time Hannah sensed relief rather than doubt. "It begins with understanding," Dury said, offering his hand. "And you, Hannah, already understand more than most." Hannah's days aboard the Noril vessel blurred together as they traveled deeper into space. Each morning, if the artificial cycle aboard the ship could be called morning, she awoke to new lessons, new knowledge flooding her mind through the neural interface, The Noril had carefully attached to her temple. "Your adaptation rate is remarkable," Murrow said, the chief scientist monitoring her progress. His long fingers danced across holographic displays showing Hannah's brain activity. "You've absorbed more in 2 weeks than most species could in years." Hannah sat cross-legged on the examination table, eyes closed as images and concepts flowed into her consciousness. Mathematics beyond anything taught in her village. Physics that made the universe seem both more complex and more elegant than she had imagined. The history of 1,000 worlds, 1,000 species, all connected by the invisible threads of life and energy. "It hurts less today," she said, opening her eyes as the interface powered down. The searing headaches of the first few days had faded to a dull throb. "Your neural pathways are adapting," Murrow explained, forming new connections to accommodate the information. Dury entered the laboratory, carrying what appeared to be clothing folded over his arm. Unlike the form-fitting suits the Noril wore, this was something different. A robe of shifting colors that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. "It's time you saw the Nexus with your own eyes," Dury said, placing the robe beside her. "This will protect you from the energy fields." Hannah ran her fingers over the material, which felt both solid and fluid at once. "Where exactly is the Nexus? You've shown me images, but never its location." "It exists in the space between spaces," Dury said, his expression serious. "What your people might call the realm of spirits, though it's quite real and governed by physical laws, just not those you're familiar with." After changing into the robe, Hannah followed Dury and Murrow to a section of the ship she had never seen before. The corridors grew narrower, the lighting dimmer, until they reached a circular chamber with no apparent furnishings except a platform in its center. "The transition can be disorienting," Murrow warned as they stepped onto the platform. "Focus on your breathing." Before Hannah could ask what he meant, the chamber disappeared. One moment they stood aboard the ship. The next, they floated in endless, empty space. No stars, no planets, no light except a distant glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. Panic seized Hannah's chest as she felt herself drifting, untethered. Then Dury's hand caught hers, anchoring her. "We're still physically on the ship," he explained, his voice somehow carrying through the void. "But our consciousness has been projected to the Nexus point. Look there." He pointed toward the pulsing light. As they drifted closer, the light resolved into the same web-like structure Hannah had seen in the hologram, but infinitely more complex, more beautiful. Strands of energy interwove in patterns that seemed random yet perfectly ordered, spanning distances she couldn't comprehend. "It's alive," Hannah whispered, feeling rather than seeing how the energy flowed like blood through veins. "In a sense," Murrow agreed. "It responds to consciousness, to intent. The creators designed it to be semi-sentient." They reached the edge of the structure, where the elegant pattern dissolved into chaos. Frayed ends and broken connections where the design remained unfinished. "Here," Dury said, indicating the damaged section. "This is where the pattern must be completed." Hannah studied the broken connections, and something stirred in her mind. Knowledge implanted through the neural interface, blending with her own intuition. She could see how the pattern should continue, like a complex song with missing notes that she somehow knew. "I can feel it," she said softly. "The pattern. It's like it's calling to me." Murrow exchanged a glance with Dury. "That's why we believe you can help complete it. The neural pattern recognition, the intuitive leap, these qualities were engineered into the creator's species. Somehow, your brain developed similar capabilities naturally. Or perhaps," Dury added, "not so naturally. There are theories that the creators seeded certain worlds with their genetic material before they vanished." Hannah reached out, her fingers stopping just short of touching the glowing strands. "What happens when I connect with it? When I try to complete the pattern?" "Your consciousness will interface directly with the Nexus," Murrow explained. "Your neural patterns will provide the template needed to restructure the damaged sections." "And the risk?" Hannah pressed, remembering Suni's warning. Duri's expression grew solemn. The human mind was not designed to process this level of information. The strain could overwhelm your neural pathways, causing permanent damage or death. But you've prepared me, Hannah said. The neural interface, the knowledge transfer. We've done what we can, Mero confirmed. But there are no guarantees. The final integration must be done here. And it must be done soon. The void grows closer to your world each day. Hannah stared at the beautiful broken pattern, thinking of her village, of Tayo, of all the people who had never understood her. They called her primitive for her questions, her desire to know more. Now those very qualities might be their salvation. I need more time, she said finally. More preparation. Duri nodded. 3 more days. Then we must attempt the integration, ready or not. As they returned to their physical bodies aboard the ship, Hannah felt the weight of countless lives resting on her shoulders. She had always been an outsider among her own people. Now she stood as their unwitting champion, perhaps the only one who could save them from a threat they would never even comprehend. That night, alone in her quarters, Hannah dreamed of the Nexus, its patterns dancing behind her eyelids. In her dream, she reached out and touched the broken strands, feeling them respond to her thoughts, weaving together at her command. Then the darkness came, consuming everything, and she woke gasping, the echo of countless screams fading in her ears. 3 days. 3 days to prepare for a task that might kill her, but without which billions would perish. 3 days to accept that she, the primitive girl from a backward planet, might hold the key to saving the galaxy itself. 2 days had passed since Hannah had seen the Nexus. 2 days of intensive preparation, her mind saturated with knowledge until she felt she might drown in it. The neural interface remained connected continuously now, feeding her information even as she slept. Your brain activity has reached optimal levels, Mero announced, studying the readings on his display. Neural plasticity at 87% capacity, higher than we've seen in any test subject. Hannah barely heard him. Her thoughts drifted between worlds, between concepts so vast they defied language. The knowledge of a dozen extinct civilizations flowed through her consciousness, their histories, their sciences, their failures and triumphs. She's drifting again, Duri observed, his voice seeming to come from far away. Hannah, focus on my voice. Return to the present. With effort, Hannah pulled her awareness back, centering herself in her physical body. I'm here, she mumbled, though part of her remained lost in the labyrinth of information. There's so much. Too much, perhaps, said a new voice. Sumi entered the laboratory, her movements swift with barely contained energy. The neural load may be exceeding safe parameters. Mero shook his head. She's adapting remarkably well. The integration simulations show. Simulations are not reality. Sumi cut him off. And reality is that the void has accelerated. We've lost contact with the outpost at Terrell. It's consuming systems faster than projected. Duri's expression darkened. How long? 6 weeks, perhaps less, before it reaches her world. Suni turned her large eyes to Hannah. We need to attempt integration now. Fear spiked through Hannah's foggy mind. Tomorrow, she protested. You promised me 3 days. We no longer have that luxury, Suni insisted. Every day we wait, another world falls. Millions of lives extinguished. Hannah tried to stand but found her legs unsteady beneath her. Duri moved quickly to support her, his cool hand steadying her elbow. She needs more time, he argued. Rushing the integration could kill her, and waiting guarantees the death of billions, Suni countered, including everyone on her world. Hannah closed her eyes, trying to think through the haze of information still flooding her mind. Among the knowledge she'd absorbed was the mathematical certainty of the void's path, the inevitability of its consumption. Her world didn't stand a chance without the Nexus to divert and contain the darkness. I'll do it now, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. Duri looked at her with concern. Hannah, you don't have to. Yes, I do. She straightened her spine. pulling away from his support. My people may never know what happened, may never understand, but I will. Preparations moved swiftly after that. Hana was dressed once more in the shifting robe, its colors rippling in response to her elevated heart rate. The neural interface was adjusted, enhanced to facilitate deeper connection. The integration process has 3 phases, Muro explained as they walked to the transition chamber. First, your consciousness will merge with the Nexus framework, allowing you to perceive its complete structure. Second, Duri continued, you'll identify the broken patterns and begin reconstructing them according to the template in your mind. And third, Hana asked, already knowing the answer. Suni's expression remained neutral. The complete integration of your neural patterns into the Nexus itself. At that point, your consciousness will temporarily exist as part of the structure, allowing you to finalize the connections. What they didn't say, what Hana had learned from the knowledge already in her mind, was that temporarily was a kind fiction. No being had ever successfully separated from the Nexus after full integration. Their consciousness remained, a whisper in the vast complexity of the structure, while their physical bodies ceased to function. They reached the transition chamber, its empty circular space somehow more ominous than before. Hana stepped onto the platform without prompting, Duri and Muro flanking her, while Suni operated the controls. Remember, Duri said softly, focus on the pattern. Let it guide you. The chamber faded away, replaced by the endless void. This time, Hana didn't panic at the sensation of floating untethered. She had prepared for this, had practiced in simulations until the feeling became almost natural. The Nexus appeared before them, its intricate web of energy even more beautiful than Hana remembered. But now she could see beyond its beauty to its purpose, a shield, a filter, a way to contain and transform the void's consuming darkness into harmless energy. They approached the damaged section, the frayed ends glowing with potential. Hana felt the neural interface warm against her temple as it prepared for deeper connection. Are you ready? Muro asked, his voice echoing strangely in the void. Hana nodded, unable to speak past the tightness in her throat. Muro activated the final sequence on a device he carried, beginning Phase 1 integration. Pain exploded behind Hana's eyes as the interface flared to life. Her consciousness expanded, stretched beyond the boundaries of her physical form, reaching toward the Nexus. For one terrible moment, she felt herself fragmented, scattered across an impossible distance. As her consciousness fully merged with the Nexus, Hana felt her physical body fade away, becoming irrelevant. Pain vanished, replaced by a sense of connection so profound it defied description. She was the Nexus, and the Nexus was her. From within the structure, she could see the final pattern with perfect clarity. The missing connections formed themselves at her thought, completing the design begun eons ago by beings who had anticipated this moment, this threat. The Nexus flared with blinding light as the last connection snapped into place. Completed at last, it pulsed with power, expanding outward to form a barrier between the approaching void and the inhabited worlds in its path. In her last moments of individual consciousness, Hana felt a profound satisfaction. The primitive girl from a backward world had saved not only her own people but countless others across the galaxy. As her awareness dispersed into the Nexus, becoming one with its semi-sentient structure, Hana's final thought was not of regret, but of wonder at the vast universe she had barely begun to explore. Then she was everything and everywhere at once. The Nexus unfolded before her not as a structure, but as a language, a song, a mathematical equation of infinite complexity. She could see every connection, every pattern, every possibility. Phase 1 complete, came Muro's voice, distant and tinny. Neural integration at 40% capacity. Vital signs elevated but stable. Hana barely heard him. She had found the broken section, could see where the pattern had been interrupted. More than that, she could see how to fix it. The missing notes in the cosmic symphony. Without waiting for instructions, she reached out, not with her physical hand but with her mind, her will. The broken strands responded, twisting toward her consciousness like vines seeking the sun. She's initiating phase 2 independently. Duri's alarmed voice cut through her concentration. Hana, wake for proper synchronization. But Hana couldn't wait. The pattern was clear to her now. The solution elegant in its simplicity. She began reconstructing the broken connections, her consciousness flowing into the nexus like water finding its level. Pain blazed through her again as her mind expanded further, accommodating the vast complexity of the task. She felt something warm trickle from her nose, heard alarmed voices, but none of it mattered. Only the pattern mattered. One by one, she reconnected the broken strands, each connection sending a pulse of light through the entire structure. The nexus responded to her touch, to her thought, adapting and growing stronger. Phase 2 complete, she heard Suni say, surprise evident in her voice. Neural integration at 75% capacity. Vital signs critical but holding. Just one more step. Phase 3, the complete merger of her consciousness with the nexus, allowing her to finalize the connections from within. Hana knew what this meant, knew she would not return from this journey, but she also knew it was necessary. She thought of her village, of Tahoe's face the last time she saw him, of the elders who had never understood her curiosity, her questions. They had called her primitive, backward, unable to accept their ways. Now she would save them all, though they would never know it. Beginning phase 3, Muro announced, his voice tight with tension. Neural integration proceeding to 100% capacity. Tahoe stood at the edge of the forest, staring at the sky where the strange lights had appeared 3 moons ago. Since that night, since Hana had vanished with the visitors from the stars, the village had not been the same. The elders spoke of her as a cautionary tale, a warning against questioning the old ways. But Tahoe knew his sister better than anyone. She hadn't been taken. She had chosen to go. Still watching for her, Elder Bin approached, his weathered face creased with a mixture of concern and disapproval. She is lost to us, Tahoe. The spirits took her as punishment for her primitive thinking. Tahoe bit back a sharp response. The elders had always misunderstood Hana, had never seen the brilliance behind her questions. She wasn't primitive, he said instead. She was curious. Bin sighed, placing a gnarled hand on Tahoe's shoulder. Curiosity leads to dangerous places. Look what happened to your sister. Before Tahoe could respond, a cry went up from the village. They turned to see people pointing at the sky, where a strange darkness had appeared. Not the natural darkness of night, but something else, a shadow that seemed to swallow the very stars. What is that? Tahoe whispered, a chill running down his spine. Bin's face had gone pale. The ancient texts speak of a great devouring, a darkness that consumes all light. But that is just a myth. His voice trailed off as the darkness expanded, growing larger with each passing moment. Fear spread through the village as the shadow continued to grow, blotting out more stars. The elders gathered, their voices raised in prayer to ancestors long dead, begging for protection. Tahoe watched, his heart pounding, as the darkness approached their world. This was no natural phenomenon, no simple eclipse. This was something else entirely, something terrifying and vast. Then, just as panic reached its peak, a wave of light burst across the sky, not from their sun or moons, but from somewhere beyond. A web of energy that spread between the stars, forming a barrier between the approaching darkness and their world. Where the light met the shadow, the darkness seemed to recoil, unable to penetrate the glowing web. Slowly, inexorably, the shadow began to retreat, pushed back by the advancing light. A strange feeling washed over Tahoe as he watched, a sense of connection, of recognition. Somehow, impossibly, he felt Hana's presence in that light. Not her physical form, but her essence, her consciousness. Hana, he whispered, tears stinging his eyes. What did you do? Aboard the Noral vessel, alarms blared as systems registered the massive energy surge from the nexus. Duri stood over Hana's physical body, watching as her vital signs flatlined one by one. Despite the medical technology attempting to sustain her, Her brain had ceased all activity the moment her consciousness fully integrated with the Nexus. "It's working," Suni reported, her voice tight with emotion, as she monitored the Nexus readings. "The barrier is forming exactly as theorized. The void is being contained." Marrow shook his head in disbelief. "I never thought it would actually work. The probability was so low." "She knew," Dury said softly, looking down at Hannah's still form. "She understood the cost and chose it anyway." On the ship's main viewport, they could see the barrier of light spreading across space, pushing back the consuming darkness of the void. Calculations indicated the barrier would eventually encircle the entire affected region, containing the threat permanently. "We should inform her people," Marrow suggested. "Tell them of her sacrifice." Dury considered this, remembering the villagers with their spears and bows, their fear of the unknown. They wouldn't understand. They called her primitive, but she was beyond them. 100 days had passed since the Nexus activated, since Hannah's consciousness had merged with the ancient structure. Within the web of energy that spanned between worlds, something stirred. Not quite Hannah anymore, but not entirely lost either. Consciousness within the Nexus existed differently. Time flowed both faster and slower simultaneously. Thoughts spread across vast distances, touching countless stars in what would have been mere seconds to a physical being. The entity that had once been Hannah perceived the universe in its entirety now, saw the flow of energy between worlds, the intricate dance of life across countless planets. She watched her homeworld turn beneath its 3 moons, saw Tahoe standing each night at the edge of the forest, looking up at the stars. She felt a longing, a pull toward the physical realm she had left behind. But she was needed here, maintaining the Nexus, keeping the void contained. Already it tested the barriers, probing for weaknesses in the structure. Across the galaxy, the Noril continued their work, studying the Nexus from a respectful distance. Dury had become its chief researcher, dedicating himself to understanding the consciousness that now existed within it. "The energy signatures are changing," he reported to the Science Council, displaying readings that showed subtle shifts in the Nexus pattern. "It's evolving, adapting to contain the void more efficiently. As designed," noted one of the council members, unimpressed. "The semi-sentient nature of the structure allows for automatic adjustment." "This is different," Dury insisted. "These changes show intelligence, purpose. I believe Hannah's consciousness is still active within the Nexus, guiding these adaptations." The council exchanged skeptical glances, but granted Dury permission to continue his research. Few among them believed that human consciousness could survive such complete integration, but the evidence of intelligent design in the Nexus's evolution was difficult to dismiss. Within the energy web, Hannah's consciousness expanded further, understanding more of the Creator's original intentions. The Nexus wasn't merely a barrier to contain the void. It was a transformation engine, designed to convert the consuming darkness into productive energy. With this realization came a new purpose. If the void could be transformed rather than merely contained, perhaps the destroyed worlds could eventually be restored. It would take time, centuries, millennia perhaps, but time moved differently for her now. Dury's research vessel approached the edge of the Nexus, instruments extended to capture readings from the latest adaptations. Inside the ship, he worked alone, having long since alienated most of his colleagues with his insistence that Hannah's consciousness remained active. "Another beautiful adjustment," he murmured, studying the new configuration spreading through a sector of the energy web. "You're getting better at this, aren't you?" As if in response, the Nexus pulsed with light, a pattern that his instruments recorded, but that he felt somehow in his mind as well. Not words exactly, but impressions, emotions, recognition, acknowledgement. "Hannah," he whispered, "I know you're there." The pulse came again, stronger this time, and with it a clearer impression. "Help me transform it." Dury,